All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay. Go.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Fireside Chats.
What is up, everybody? It is your boy Lou Martinez, aka Big Chief Burrito, live with you on a Tuesday. Fireside Chats with Big Chief Burrito, coming at you live from the Chula Vista Burrito Lounge, beautiful Chula Vista, California. Had to take last week off, was a little under the weather, had that post-COVID second dose blues, doing much better now. And tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about wrestling and voice acting. We have a guest on today that, peripherally, we haven't met kind of officially a bunch of times, seen each other at a couple of events recently, but I've always had him on the radar. Somebody that I thought was super interesting, had some definitive takes, was a funny guy, kind of in the world of wrestling, voiceover acting. So I'm glad to be able to invite him to come on the show. So let's bring him on right away, Mr. Jon Allen. Thanks for coming on, brother.
¿Qué tal, amigo? What's crack-a-lackin'?
Same old, man. Now, you've been keeping busy during this last year. I know a lot of people, had a shift to transition to like homework and stuff like that. A lot of industries like entertainment got knocked down pretty good. But how has it affected, voiceover acting, wrestling, etc.? Let's jump right into it.
Well, the wrestling has pretty much been an all-stop, for me at least. There's some people who've been having shows still, but it's like, I don't know, man. Grappling with a sweaty dude, to me, seems like the exact opposite of social distancing. So I kind of, I pretty much just wrestle for one group these days, and they took a hiatus after February of 2020 was our last show. So on the voiceover side of things, though, things have been good. I was able to upgrade my home studio to broadcast quality, and that's been a huge blessing, because without that, I would have just gone insane.
Is that like ISDN line, or how do you upgrade it?
No, not too many people use ISDN these days. The two services that I go through typically are Source Connect and Connection Open.
Okay.
So they're a little bit more cost effective. I can't even remember what ISDN used to cost, but I'm digging. It's also it's I think it was a pain in the butt to install back in the day as well. Now that I think about it.
Now that gives you the ability to sort of be in the room, so to speak, when you're dealing with clients or different kind of deliverables and stuff like that. Is that kind of the upgrade?
Well, it was also just I needed to go ahead and upgrade my computer. It didn't have enough RAM or processing power to facilitate the level that we needed it at. I upgraded my mic. I upgraded my interface. paid a little bit more attention to the. I was already, pretty mindful of acoustic treatments, but I went ahead and worked on that a bit as well. But yeah, so far so good.
Is it? I mean, because a lot of people because I bought a PC at the start of the pandemic, and it took like 3 times as long to get it because it seemed like everybody was like, "Oh, now I get to work on, my podcast, and I work on my stream, and I'm going to be a professional gamer now, or I'm going to do all this stuff." So computer parts were scarce availability at the beginning, but it is night and day the difference between a professional mic setup in terms of like an XLR recorder, stuff like that, versus like the very best USB mics, right? There's a night and day between those two levels.
Yeah, you can't use a USB mic. It's just not broadcast quality for what we do. I know you see a lot of YouTubers shove the gray Yeti in front of them and think like, now I'm legit. Look at this. But it's like, and you know what? Not to bag on it too bad. I booked some auditions off of a Yeti back in the day. You can get some good resonance off of it, but they clip really easily, if you know what that means. Sometimes they can be a little bit muddy, and there's more self noise. So really, you got to have a good XLR into an input like an SSL2 or even a Focusrite 2i2.
And then go
I mean,
from
they'll
there.
work with you. It's amazing what the people in post production have been able to accomplish with making everybody sound as close as possible to being in the same recording space and on the same equipment. But in that same breath, you got to throw them a bone and at least get things up to a certain level for them to use you on projects these days. And it's getting even, some video game companies are getting even pickier about that, I'm told. So
Just in terms of what the ante into the game, so to speak.
the equipment, like, for example, usually it's enough to just send in the audition and they can hear it, that's good enough based upon what they're hearing. But there's some companies now that want you to like take a picture of the booth you're working with or modified closet or what have you, and they'll really get into the details there and be like, we're seeing some shelves that if you could just put foam underneath that as well, that would really help with some of the slapback. Like that, to that degree, they're getting detailed. And for why not? It certainly beats. It's better to get that done before you start rolling, and rather than course correcting after you get started.
Yeah, especially if they're paying you, right? I mean, isn't that
Right.
like isn't that like, hey, come do a voice on this animation that I did by myself, right?
Yeah.
Um, Talking with Jon Allen, voice actor, wrestler. But let's start at the beginning of you. When did you? I don't know. I guess is it when did you realize you were funny, or when did you realize that you had a propensity for being able to mimic something? Because I think the first group of people we usually make laugh is like our family, right? Um,
Uh, yeah,
kids
I guess
at
so.
school.
I guess I can remember getting some laughs out of my bro, but more like in school and like making friends and classmates laugh. So I would say it was probably about, I would say as early as like junior high or sixth grade. I noticed I had a good ear for how people sounded and being able to replicate that, and then just riffing. And actually, around, the reason I mentioned like sixth, seventh grade was when I was going to junior high. I actually kind of put together a sketch comedy album with a buddy of mine, kind of in the same vein as Adam Sandler's, where there was a mix of like some song parody stuff as well as some sketches that were purely audio based.
They're all gonna
I
laugh at
just
you.
always thought that was so cool how when like what they're all gonna laugh at you, if you know that one, like
Yeah, of
they're all
course.
gonna laugh at you. Like just how you could, so much was left to your imagination just based upon what you were hearing, and I thought that was just such a cool way to elicit laughs and do comedy in that way.
Yeah, the beating of a high school Spanish teacher.
Yeah, okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Hey,
Yeah,
Mr. Spindale, how's algebra class going?
Mr. Food Innuendo, man. I mean, yeah, that was like my first like stoner experiences were like listening to the Adam Sandler tapes. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you got
And
it.
see, I didn't really watch SNL as a kid, so I didn't really know who Adam Sandler was per se. So it's kind of funny. I kept like asking for like Brian Adams at like Tower Records because I couldn't remember the name. They'd be like, "Yeah, no, Brian Adams does not have a song about making love to a turkey, sir. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go someplace else for that."
Now, when you start those shows, do you mimic or do you copy the things that are around you, or do you go straight for celebrities, or are you like, the substitute teacher had a weird voice and I'm gonna do that because the kids know that one?
You're talking about the voice acting now?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about, like, when you start doing like sketches and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, it was
Do you
definitely
start
like,
mimicking what's around you, or do you start mimicking like pop culture right away?
well, yeah, I mean, it was inside jokes in that regard, so some of it wouldn't play too well today. Maybe not in the same way, because sometimes a bad impression makes for a great original character. But yeah, it was like me making fun of, like, I completely ripped off like the beating of so and so. Like it'd be like Mr. Mahalka or whoever the teacher was that I thought was quirky that week. Um, there was like a song parody about some kid in our class named Felipe, stuff like that. Nothing too cruel or anything like that, but busting balls a little bit like you do.
And then I guess you do that, you start doing the sketches, you start doing stuff like that, and then is it the immediate feedback that lets you know, like, oh my god, like people like me when I do this, or people are into
Basically,
this?
yeah. I mean, if you're just laughing at your own jokes and nobody else's, you're probably not doing it right. So, to an extent, you can do some things that amuse just you, but if you're actually going to put it on a cassette and ask people to buy a copy for $1 or whatever we were selling it for, it's got to be something that resonates with everybody, not just yourself. So,
What was the first like kind of characters that you came up with?
oh God, that's going so far back. It's kind of hard to remember. I just remember me and a friend of mine would just be riffing and completely uncensored improv, and sometimes magic would happen and sometimes it wouldn't. Um, but I mean, even if I like told you the names, like I couldn't really
Oh no,
remember them off the top of my head.
no. I
There
mean,
was
I
some
just
kid whose mom was crazy, and for some reason, she was always getting on his case for eating too much donuts, and then would randomly work the word shotgun into things. Give me your jelly donut, Felipe. Shotgun. Like just completely crazy.
oh man. Um, so right, do you immediately, like, you're growing up, you start doing that, you figure out that you have the ability to do that. Do you immediately say this is what I want to do, or were you drawn to other more like normal career paths as well?
Sort of. It wasn't really until about, I'd obviously been a huge animation fan. Anybody who's been a kid has watched some cartoon. That's how you get babysat when mom's at work. But I think it wasn't until about maybe junior high with like the anime boom, with that becoming a thing, that's about the time we're talking like 99, very early 2000s, where I start to think, there's people that get paid to do this voiceover stuff, and that'd be really cool to look into. So that it was even from way back then, like the seed had kind of been planted.
Okay, just enough that you like, there's a possibility that I could do this.
Yeah, I started looking into it, started asking questions and so on.
You ask your high school counselor, hey, what if I want to be a voiceover
No,
actor?
no. I don't think I wish actually that would have been maybe smarter than what I did, which was just kind of, I don't know. I
Winging
don't
it.
know what answer he would have given me if he knew how to get into voiceover. Maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe who knows?
Did you like, there's people, I don't know, like Craig Gass, Rich Little, obviously. You have the big like voice guys out there that you kind of say are like the standard for people that can mimic really well other people. Did you ever like study them, or did you kind of just sort of come at it from your own kind of style when you attempted that?
When I was just starting out,
Yeah, well, like, I mean, you realize that it's a possibility that you can have this as a career. You start going down that path. Do you start looking at, like, okay, well, who are the top people in this, and is there anything that I can learn from them, or is that not part of your equation?
well, I mean, as far as kind of learning how to do it, like I didn't really start taking acting classes until college and stuff like that. But I was definitely working with my own instrument and just seeing what I could produce, and learning what my range was, learning about breath control and stuff like that. Um, I reached out to some people over in Texas who were working on Dragon Ball Z and made friends with a couple of them, and that's kind of what got me my cup of coffee over there back in the day. Was being invited out to do a general audition and see if that'd be a good fit.
Now, when you let's when you're creating something brand new, just based off like a description, like this guy's anthropomorphic turtle with that fights demons, or something like that, and
Sounds like a fun show.
and you're like,
Are you booking? I'm on in.
oh yeah, I'm writing the spec script for it.
Nice.
And you have to like come up with something like completely out of the blue. Where does that process start for you? Like,
Well, if they send a picture over, that helps a lot. That gives me an idea of like what maybe they had in mind. Like if they've drawn him with like an overbite or an underbite, or if he's got a huge schnoz or something like that. If he's a very large guy, if he's a skinny guy, that kind of gets me going down the path of what it might be, and then just same as any other acting, man. Take everything you can from however much the script they provide, and just work with the given circumstances. Um, excuse me. At a certain point, like you've developed a couple of characters, and you see if like they would work, to kind of throw them onto this canvas, and maybe polish them up in a certain way from there. Like there's one that I just got sent today that I obviously can't talk about like what it is or what it's for, but this one also kind of gives you one thing they're doing these days is they'll kind of give you an idea of like celebrity references, like
okay,
something in the vein of blank. So maybe you start with an impression of that and just see where it takes you, or see what the clues are from doing that impression to give you an idea of what they would like it to be. Because most of the time they don't want you to do a spot on impression of that guy. They just want to have it be in the same vein. Like we're looking for a Ryan Reynolds type or
Ryan
something like
Reynolds,
that.
a Ryan Seacrest type.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm a Ryan Seacrest type.
When I guess when I talk with actors and stuff like that, and I coach actors on different things, I always tell them that one of the important things for auditions is to make choices beyond the page. And when I've always auditioned people for roles, I give them the snippet, the line of dialogue, and I give them their character's little tiny breakdown. But I like it when they come into an audition having made decisions about that character that go beyond what's
Right.
on there. I guess for a voice actor, you have to do that, plus incorporate the images that you have, right?
Yeah, and not only another trap that some will fall into is getting too married to those choices that they've made. Like they've rehearsed it so much in a certain way that they can't make the adjustments. And I think that's part of the test with an audition is even if you nailed exactly what they wanted on that first take, they're still going to ask you for one more usually, just because they want to see if you can take direction, and you're somebody that they want to work with.
Have you have you come in with your own choices, given them the performance, and have them be surprised? Like, we hadn't even thought about it that way, but you've brought something to it that we hadn't envisioned. Is that a good thing to happen?
Definitely. It's not really insulting them, it's just giving them more options to play with. I mean, that's happened where there was sometimes I would be sent something that I'm like, this isn't really in my wheelhouse per se, but let's just throw crap against the wall and see what sticks. And lo and behold, you get a callback for it sometimes. So
And is there do you feel, because I think that a lot of the things that actors have been dealing with is, some saying, they actually feel comfortable sending in a self tape because they're by themselves in a room, versus some saying, I just miss being able the immediacy of having somebody performing in front of them.
yeah.
Do you feel any different sort of performance anxiety when you're doing a live audition versus
No, I
virtual?
prefer it. I prefer it being like a dialogue so you can bounce ideas for the director and get a feel. I mean, there's a lot of little cues if you're paying attention that they'll give you that, again, kind of lets you know if you're going down the right road or not. So I've actually requested at times if the director was available, rather than just sending in an MP3, if I could just come in and do it. I'll tell them like the dogs next door are being too noisy that day or something like that. This one trick I've used.
I
But
live in a
obviously, with us getting as many that we have to bang out every day, most of the on a good day, that's not always feasible. But every once in a while, I like to do that because it's just, I don't know. I like being around people sometimes.
yeah, no. This is the reason I do these, is because I can't
Something
go
to break up
anywhere.
the monotony of just yelling in the dark and just sending off the MP3, and it's so much more cold that way.
Right. And what's the weirdest like character that you've read and just were like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, or
I don't know how I'm going to do it.
like, or have you ever just read a character that was like, here's the character, and you're just like dumbfounded, like I don't
Yeah,
understand.
there's some I've gotten where there's not really dialogue; it's just noises,
No.
or they'll do something where they've written out dialogue, but they don't want you to read the dialogue. They just want you to do. It's like a creature, right?
Mhm.
So it'd be like, "How are you doing today?" But they want it like it's a monster or a creature, so it's like, you know. So you just kind of goof around with that, or sometimes it's just a single line, and it's like, how much
Can
how
you get
much how much Shakespeare can you put into just like please hold or something like that.
you got to build the entire character's backstory to what it led to him saying please hold? Is that kind of
I
like,
guess. I mean, they usually give you some context, but it's always, the less they give you, the more it's like, all right, you just
do you
you can only
do you
expect
feel
so much, I guess.
when you compare voice acting to traditional acting, do you feel that it is more cutthroat? Do you feel that it's more easier for somebody to break into? How would you compare the two sort of subsets in the industry?
Um, Everybody's path is going to be different. Voiceover has always resonated more with me, I guess, just because I like the limitless nature of it. These days, it's getting a little bit more like on camera in that, um, for example, if I was sent a character that is asked to read for a character that's of color,
Right.
maybe not the best idea to try and be that guy when there's others that would physically be more appropriate for that role. Um,
But the other side of that is that you would think that if there was a place that could be colorblind, it would be the voice acting world where it
yeah,
was.
and it still is. I mean, like, I'm not actually an anthropomorphic spider, but I play one
Right.
on a cartoon that'll be out in like a year. I'm not actually a kung fu shark that can stretch like Stretch Armstrong, but we just banged out. That's something I've been doing for a while now with Gujitsu. So
Well, no, I guess.
it's definitely a little bit more. I mean, obviously, there's the stuff that's has less of a fan base behind it, the commercials and the corporate narration and the e-learning and stuff like that. But as far as like animation and video games, yeah, you can definitely stretch beyond who you physically are.
I think obviously that's something that's happened recently. You're talking about the fact that certain characters, Big Mouth and other shows, The Simpsons, have said that they're basically willingly stepping down from their roles because they feel that people of color that better represent how those characters are drawn should be getting those parts. And I guess that's probably like an advanced backlash to Hollywood and the fact that if I was in a movie 40 years ago, I couldn't play myself. They'd get a white guy with brown skin to play a Mexican or a Colombian guy and stuff like that. So it's almost like looking at it from my perspective, it's not necessarily like an overcorrection. It's I think it's about more inclusivity and getting people
Yeah, and
that
I don't mean to I hope I didn't give the impression that I think
no.
it's an overcorrection either. I'm not. I think it's fantastic that people who've been kind of boxed out are being given more opportunities. That if anybody should be playing those characters, or at least have the chance to, it should be people that. Oh, hey, Mark. Should be people that come from that background. I'm
No,
not.
yeah. If anything, I think I was taking the other side because, like I
Oh,
said,
okay.
because like I said, yes, like I said, for since film start, 99% of the roles have been done by a group of people, even roles for other minorities, and it's slowly gotten better. But then you get to the point where you're like, well, like there was a whole thing with Bryan Cranston that he shouldn't play a person that was disabled because that role should have gone to something like that. But then you get into, well, if you don't get a star for your movie, the movie's not getting made at all. So I guess it just kind of goes to not necessarily at the end of the day, it's your project, it's your cartoon, it's your film. So I think that as long as you are open to yourself and are open to looking for people in those backgrounds and audition them and reach out and stuff like that, that at
Right.
the end of the day you can feel clean in how you make your film. At least as a filmmaker, that's what I do.
Right.
But
I mean, that's the way I felt for many years when I wasn't getting auditions. It's like, look, I'm not saying you have to book me. I'm not that level of arrogance, but I'm like, at least give me the chance to read for this stuff. That's all I'm asking, because I know I bring something to the table. And that's how so many people who've been left out of that process have been feeling. And finally, the needle is kind of turning in the other direction on that.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. No. What do you think was the first celebrity voice that you nailed that you were just like, oh, I can go to this anytime I need to?
That's a tough one, because I've been doing this. I mean, not just voice acting, but just impersonating people in general. That's been going on a while. Growing up, being a wrestling fan, if I had to guess, maybe somebody like a Macho Man Randy Savage or something like that. God rest his soul. Um, I mean, these days it would probably be more, because we've all been so invested in like the political process these days. It'd be more like a Bernie Sanders or a Trump that just kind of, right off the, like riding a bike. Then you can even go back to, John Lovitz, and there's a bunch. Yeah, acting. Yes, yes. I actually did John Lovitz for Dana Carvey as part of a game show thing he was doing one time, and he asked me
Nice.
to do that voice. He's like, "Can I film you doing John and then send it to John?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't want him to get
Oh,
mad, but no, he'll love it." So
damn. That's high praise from Dana Carvey.
yeah, no, I mean, just picking his brain in the short time I got to work with him on impressions was amazing. So because I remember I was doing I did Trump that day, and I was noticing, like, doing the puckered thing was like making my jaw so tired, and he kind of saw, and he's like, "You all right?" I'm like, yeah, just doing yeah. Just it's really kind of wearing out my face muscles. And he's like, "Oh, the same thing happened when I was doing Garth."
Oh, yeah, same thing.
Yeah, the doctor said, you got to stop doing that, and I said, "Not for the money they're paying me." And he's got a point.
Well, one of the things that, and I think I've seen like Dana Carvey interviewed like on Stern or other places where he talks about the impressions and not necessarily, you know, putting yourself in the mannerisms and the sort of the space of that person and picking up on things that are behind just like the most obvious, right? There's the low hanging fruit of their voice or their inflection, but there's the also their posture, their cadence, the type of how they
Yeah.
breathe, stuff like that, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, not to get too like method about it, but there's the outside in versus inside out theory of finding that character, and draw from both as best you can, especially if you're, excuse me, if we're talking about an impression. So yeah, there's
Nice.
usually like a hook line. I think it was I can't remember what his was when he was coming up with the Lauren Michael impression, but there's always like, it's
Oh
finding the
yeah.
music of
Oh,
that character, so to speak.
okay, yeah, yeah. And the whole thing where Mike Myers was used that for Dr. Evil, right? Or
Yeah,
for
that was a whole thing. I didn't even really realize that until I saw his interview on Stern. Should have been obvious, but
no, that's good. One of the things where when I try to do an impression or when I try to do a voice is not being able to sustain it. Meaning,
mhm.
like you say, like you say, like, "Oh, I'm gonna do Sean Connery," and you're like, "Welcome to the Rock," and then after that, it sort of merges into like another accent or something like that. How do you study? How do you train yourself to begin a character in the right pitch and then maintain it?
That's tough, because in the case of some people I've impersonated, it's not just doing the voice or a scene; it's wrestling as them.
Mm.
So that adds a whole other layer of like, what moves would this person do? What would be funny for them to do? Um, as far as sustaining it, I don't know, man. I think that's just kind of a mental thing where you just kind of get into a groove and hang on to it.
Thought, thought there was a
If
trick.
we're talking about something that's like very physically demanding, like to go back to like Macho Man Randy Savage, for example, like that's a voice I'm pretty good about. Like, there's a lot of actors that don't want to do the stuff that's a little bit tougher on the throat, has some texture, some gravel to it. I'm pretty good about being able to sustain that through a full recording session. Um, but at a certain point, yeah, you got to live to fight another day and know when it's best not to overdo it.
Do you a lot of whiskey and cigarettes? How do you take care of your voice mostly?
Not cigarettes. I've definitely been a bourbon man for the last couple of years, although I've tapered way back on that. this whole pandemic, it's sort of like, when you go on a flight and you're like, this is going to be uncomfortable, so I'm going to get a good buzz and just kind of like let that carry me through it. Well, if you try to do that for an entire year,
Yeah.
you're going to wear a couple of things out. As far as like actually answering your question, though, just the usual stuff. Stay hydrated. There's teas that help out. Warming up before a session. If there's a spray that I use, if I know it's going to be a character that's very throaty and in here, because that you're having to push so much air through the vocal cords that it's going to dry them out so much faster. There was a video game I just did where I was a demon, and it's like there was like 3 characters I was doing on it, and we made sure we got the easy stuff first before we got into the monster voice, because after doing the monster voice, I wasn't going to have too much left. There was going to be some dryness that was going to be heard in the other ones that I wouldn't want to be there. So,
What's the most amount of voices that you've done as part of a single project?
um,
Or do you
there's
usually just do one or
one
two?
that I remember over the summer. There's this cartoon I've been working on called Friend Space, and I was taking on a lot of minor roles and ancillary characters.
Mhm.
So I think that as we got done with the recording session, the engineer was like, "Hey, John, just so you know, in case you wanted this, for your own, just to be aware of it, 20 plus characters you did today."
Wow.
Yeah, like holy shnikes, Batman!
Were you gonna
It
get a
was
whole
something like 20, 21, or 23. And of course, when you're doing that many, some are going to bleed into each other a little bit sound wise. But just the fact that it was that dang many, it kind of blew my mind, because I knew it was a lot. I didn't know it got that high for that day
wow. So what
in
is
one single recording session. I think 2 to 4 hours long, maybe just the 2.
were they talking to each other, or were they just random
Some of
characters?
them, yeah. Like on the Gujitsu series, I think I'm like 7 different ones on that one now, because we keep doing more and they add more characters because they want to make toys to sell. So that's it's a
What
bunch.
somebody comes to you and they say, I've been doing voices my whole life. I'm an actor. I'm classically trained, but I want to get into voiceover work. What do you think your biggest piece of advice with it? Would it be about the equipment that they need to have to get into the game? Would it be about, where to look for where to work, or where would you send them first?
I don't think it's an either or thing. Um, Sometimes I get it a lot where it's like just the broad statement of like, how do I get into voiceover? And that's just like, it kind of bugs us because we get that a lot, obviously. And B, it's such a broad question with so many things to explain that it's so refreshing to me if someone has already started the research on their own
Hmm.
and says like, "Hey, John, do you like this guy's class or do you like this guy's class?" That gives me so much more to work with because I don't have to set the foundation of the house.
Right.
I can be like, "Yeah, I studied under him. He'll teach you this. If you study under her, they go a little bit more this direction, but both are good."
Mhm.
You can have a little bit more of a dialogue with that. I usually kind of let people know there's a lot of books out on the subject. There's a lot of people who teach, certainly in Southern California, both, San Diego, where you're at, and obviously in LA, and even 1 or 2 people in Orange County, you know. Um, and here in the Zoom age, it really doesn't matter where you live. You can start your training right now, even if you're in Omaha, Nebraska. You could probably study with one of the big names right now.
No, I think that one of the things that hopefully is not going back to normal is the fact that you can pitch, you can go for interviews, you can do things remotely. You don't have to be in LA. I mean, one of the reasons that I like living in San Diego is whenever, on the rare occasion that people are like, "Hey, you want to come up for a meeting?" It doesn't matter. I could be in Santa Monica and it would still take me 3 hours to get somewhere in LA. You know what I mean?
Right. And
So
that's what kept me from moving out here full time for the longest time, because it's like I'm going to be stuck in the car all day either way.
yeah.
In San Diego, you can get pretty much anywhere in like 20 minutes. And I
Mhm.
was so spoiled by that. Like a 20-minute drive felt like, God dang it, why can't I be closer? Here, it's like an hour plus, pre pandemic. So that's why, like, a lot of things, I was already just getting so fed up with the traffic and the crowds and all that. that just moving up here really got me a little bit more into like things that I could do without leaving. Like working out from home was already a thing before the gyms closed down and stuff like that. For me, anyway.
All right. Well, I think I bugged you enough about the voice acting stuff, so let's
Well, if you
shift.
got more questions, by all means.
No, I mean I love to talk process with people, and obviously like I feel like voice acting is something that the general acting public might feel that is easier than the career path that they're on for acting. Like they might feel I don't need an agent for voice acting. I can just record myself on my iPhone, put it up on a website, and tomorrow I'm going to be doing voice. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing like 6 or 7 cartoons a day. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's some truth to that, and there's some myths about that. It's definitely become a much more saturated market since it became so much more accessible technologically speaking
Right.
in the last 10, 20 years. And I think we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier where there's some people who want to perform in some capacity. They want to contribute to storytelling, but they don't like being in front of a crowd. And then there's other people that would kind of balk at the voiceover side of things because maybe they feel there's less celebrity aspect because people aren't seeing their face all the time. They're just hearing them. So there's pros and cons to both. I'd say both are pretty sought after these days.
What like I talked a little bit about the people that we seem to feel are like famous for voiceover or for impersonations, right? Let's just say impersonations and stuff like that. What is the best comedian or actor that you've seen, and your favorite kind of impersonation that you've seen somebody do?
That's a tough one. There's a lot, for whatever reason, maybe because I also do a Ric Flair. I remember Will Ferrell in Eastbound and Down, kind of
Okay.
doing like Ric Flair as a car salesman was fun. I don't know if that's like the best one I can think of, but it
Yeah.
certainly popped into my head a second ago.
I like Craig Gass when he does Al Pacino or Al Pacino's Baby.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's a lot of people on SNL and Mad TV who've made their name with impression work.
What is that one girl, Maria Villasenor, that she does Luke Wilson or Luke, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously Kate McKinnon's tearing it up on SNL right now. I mean, that'd be such a dream to do a show like that because that's so much of that work is within my wheelhouse. Just give me like 5 minutes of somebody and I can usually come up with a pretty good interpretation. But
you ever think about taking the leap, going to New York for a little while, doing maybe the club scene out there, is trying to get recognized for something like that?
it would be interesting. I've never been. One of the reasons I got into comedy and stuff like that was the hope that it would give me a reason to see more of the country. With voiceover, with people wanting to meet the people who voice things, there's also that aspect too, with appearing at fan conventions. And I was on track to do a couple more right when everything shut down. Like I just signed with a new convention appearance agent, and God was like, "Oh yeah." So
guess what? Yeah,
yeah, it happens now.
we make plans and he laughs, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, just had to hold me down a little bit longer, huh?
Do
I
you
don't know.
see? Do you think that? I mean, Friday night Comic Con San Diego, 60,000 people walking the floor. Do you see like that as a possibility? Like anytime soon, like on a convention floor with like people from all like if they would have had Comic Con,
Oh,
like if Comic Con would have gone last year, would have been like the super spreaded event of the millennia, right? Like,
well, yeah, and that's actually kind of been a thing. There's a couple of smaller fan conventions that have maybe jumped the gun on opening back up. I know there was one that did it in Texas about a month or so back. There's actually there was one before that even. Texas, I think, has tried it twice. There was one that was making a big stink out in Sacramento because not only were they running a live event, which, hey, not everybody's vaccinated yet. Half the people still think masks are fake or whatever the heck. But they got in some trouble because I guess this was the site, the place they were using was actually going to be a vaccination center. And it's like, rather than getting people vaccinated, they're spending the day like getting everybody in a large group I think I put out a tweet where it's like, "Hey, can I get the life-saving vaccine to save me from the deadly once-in-a-lifetime pandemic?" No, but you can get your Pokemon card signed for $30 in this large group. Uh, what? What? Okay, I guess that's the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's supposed to be a Comic-Con, a 3-day event for Thanksgiving, and I'm just like, "Ooh, Thanksgiving? I mean, we worked so hard to get our summer back, and now you want
Yeah.
me to now Thanksgiving?" Although, I don't know. I'm just worried about keeping my pro
To
badge.
answer your question, I think at some point, yeah.
We got to go
But
back.
it's such a long slogging process to get to some level of herd immunity, especially with the I guess the variants that of the mutations, however you want to label it, of COVID.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's going to be a while. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think that the best we can do is just stay on guard about it, vaccinate, and it might be a thing where you have to get it once a year, like flu shots. I'm not certain, but just do what you got to do for God's sake.
I'm all for masks staying a part of our lives. You got to get your cell phone, you got to get your keys, grab your mask. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world if you're going to be walking around in the wintertime to, not to add to the chance that you're not going to catch some stupid virus.
I mean, dude, have you noticed this? That not like you haven't had COVID, right?
No.
Okay. Neither have I, and not only that, but I haven't gotten sick once.
Yeah, I didn't
You
get sick.
know,
I got sick. I got sick the day I hit 2 weeks post second shot, which is when I'm supposed to be most protected. 2 weeks after my second dosage, I got sick, but it was the weather was changing and it was
yeah,
allergies and shit like that.
exactly. But my point is just like the people who you'd see on the bus wearing masks, you know, ages ago, not a bad idea.
I miss
It
licking
turns out.
church. Enslaved by vegetables misses licking church door handles. Well,
Oh,
can't wait.
just the church door handles? You
Just that.
wuss.
You got to get. It's in the pew. It's all about the pew.
And that's why they call it a pew.
um, One of the things that I saw on Twitter the other day, there was this argument back and forth regarding animation as a genre in of itself. Do you think animation is its own genre, or can a film that is of a certain genre be animated?
I'm not sure if I completely understand that one.
So like horror, comedy, animation as a genre.
I think if I may, it sounds like you're asking, can something that's animated transcend what we normally think animation's limits are? Where you don't think of it as like this is a good animated horror movie, this is just a good horror movie, period. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Well, no, I think it's like should animation be considered one of the genres of filmmaking, or can an
It kind of
animated
is,
movie? You think so?
isn't it?
You think that was the question? Like there was people arguing back and forth saying, you
I mean,
know,
they give an Oscar for best animated feature, right?
right, but they don't give an Oscar for best comedy.
Okay, so you're talking about, you know, making more little subdivisions in that category, and not just having it under one umbrella.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like well, what genre of film do you work in? I work in animated films. Well, some people might say, okay, that's a genre. Some people say that just means that it's an animated movie. The genre is whatever. So if it was like a
I
kids
don't know,
movie,
man. That sounds like they're splitting hairs on that one just a little bit too much.
like I said, it's something I noticed on Twitter. I just bring
It
stuff
made
up.
the dog leave.
Yeah, the dog's like unhappy. Go to bed. Go to bed.
He's like, well, if you want my opinion.
He's like, I got a definite opinion about animal movies. I guess an animal movie is an animal movie. If you animate it, it's just an animated animal movie,
Yeah.
right? Or it's
But don't get me started. Airbud was robbed. That was the best picture. He played friggin' basketball, and he was
there's
a good boy.
there's no
Really?
law that says dogs can't play football. It's not. I can't find it in the rule book.
Bunch of racists not giving Airbud the Oscar. What's wrong with you?
Oh
Because
man,
he walked on 2 feet.
We're talking live with Jon Allen, voice actor. Let's put your info out here, man, so people can follow you. You can follow him on Twitter at King Jon Allen. You can find him on Instagram at the Jon Allen, and on Facebook for voiceover work at facebook.com/Jon Allen VO. And remind you that if you guys are watching us, make sure you're following us on facebook.com/2am burrito, twitch.tv/2am burrito, and youtube.com/2am burrito, as well as the We also have a podcast. Well, this is the podcast on Podbean,
About to start
Spotify, or
hawking them t-shirts.
you got t-shirts? You got
I
merch?
mean, I signed some prints of characters I voiced, but I was asking if you had any t-shirts. The 2 a.m. burrito is a cool looking logo. I could see
I
it
have-
on a white tee or a baseball tee.
yeah. We got the stickers.
There you go.
We
I used to have
got
stickers, but kind of ran out of those. Oh.
Airbud is a brilliant franchise. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by, Mr. Mark Allen.
Darn right. Learn to spell Allen properly.
We got TV's Mark Allen and Mr. Jon Allen here. Let's segue over to wrestling for a second.
Yes.
But first,
Sorry
but
if I was delaying this.
No, it's fine, man. Like I said, it's free flow, and we can talk about everything else. But first, I want to do a segment that I like to call "Should I Buy This?" And the question for today, and I saw you post something about it earlier, was, should I buy this?
Yes. Did Ken Pringle put you up to this? Because I'm so close.
No. I saw that you posted it about it, but I saw Kevin Smith, Jay and Silent Bob went on, and they had this whole video about this toy.
I mean, it's $700, but I want it.
But it's an authentic Optimus Prime. It's got like 1,000 parts in it. It's voice activated. It rolls out. It transforms in of itself. It's got 27 servo motors. This is like the most advanced toy I've ever seen in my life.
Like, I had an Optimus Prime growing up, right? The original one. But like, if I had this as a kid, just blow my mind.
And you'd probably like drop it in a bathtub or like play with it in the sand and ruin it like right away,
I'd like
right?
to think I would have more sense than that, but you never know.
All right, so 2am Burrito's got like
The ass whooping I would have got.
1,000 followers. So if everybody puts in 70 cents, I can buy this for myself. So go ahead and send those donations. And this, like, oh my God, $700 though. My birthday is in 2 weeks. So if everybody wants to put in like $7 a piece,
do they at least got like a layaway plan or something?
I don't know.
I mean,
I saw Kevin Smith talking about it, and then I looked it up as he was saying, look at that. Like that's a lot of parts for a toy.
I'll tell you this, it's not the most expensive Transformer toy I've ever seen.
Okay.
Did you go to Comic-Con the last year that they had it?
Yes.
Did you see the big ass Unicron?
Oh yeah.
In the movie, I think that was if 800, maybe even 1,200. It was a lot, or maybe it was 300. I don't remember. It was definitely like at least 300. Man, it's been a while. We just. I don't know if you heard about this pandemic thing where we all got locked in our homes for a year, but it messes with your mind.
I mean, I'm saying like $700. That's like half of the stimulus right there, and you're like,
right.
I told a couple of friends, I said, if we each put in $125, we can each keep it 2 months out of the year. And
but then you got to do that crap, like and alternating Sundays, you know.
And then what if somebody, gets their apartment raided?
Yeah. What if one of the dogs? He can't find his normal chew toy.
He was like, "Fuck it, I'm chewing up Optimus." Fuck,
yeah.
I don't know. That'd be a tough decision. Well, that has been. Should I buy this toy? So John, you're also on top of the voice acting. You wrestle, right? So not only do you have to keep your mind right and your voice right, but you also have to protect the instrument here while you're battling. One of my favorite and most traumatizing wrestling events of my entire history is when Randy Macho Man Savage went and grabbed the ring bell and then crushed Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's larynx from the top rope with the elbow, with the flying elbow, classic move. That was like, every Saturday morning I was watching wrestling so that they could give me a little snippet of Ricky the Dragon in rehab, and they showed him in Hawaii, and he was like, I can't talk yet. And then, anyway, that top of the food chain wrestlers, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is top of the food chain for me. Every time he would get in a battle royal, and then people would think they threw him over, but then he would flip himself back over.
Yeah.
Classic.
Best arm drags in the business. And I'll tell you, the blow up to that feud, their match at WrestleMania 3 still holds up today, in my opinion, a lot of people's opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. Was that at the punt? Was that at the in Michigan? Was that the
The
one with
Silverdome? Yeah.
Silverdome? That's one where Andre and Hulk also had their fight, right?
Yeah. And now I'm because I know Hogan flubbed up on calling it the Sky Dome, the Silverdome at one point. So I'm like doing a mental check to make sure I didn't just do the same thing right now.
Yeah, Pontiac Silverdome,
Yeah.
Kingston, Michigan, 98,000 Hulkamaniacs, rolling wild. Andre the Giant, man, was that your introduction into that era of wrestling, or when did you? What was the first time that you were into it as a kid?
I've got a memory of maybe watching my dad watch. I think it was Bam Bam and Hulk versus Macho and DiBiase on like a Saturday night's main event or something. But it was about 92. I was flipping channels, and I think Bret Hart had just won the belt from Ric Flair and was cutting a promo. And I don't know, grabbed my eye. And oh, by the way, there's a zombie fighting a witch doctor and all this other crazy stuff going on with, Undertaker and Papa Shango. And I was just like, what's this all about? So that was about where the interest first began for me, where I started being a fan.
The Slave says he was a fan of when Andy Kaufman would wrestle women. Yes, he was
Yep.
yeah.
Actually, when I first started being a heel manager for a promotion, I actually based a lot of my persona off of what Andy Kaufman had done, trying to be like, a little bit of mix of like Tom Cruise and Andy Kaufman. I'm Hollywood. I'm too good for this place.
What the heels, the baby face, all that stuff. Did you gradually learn about it, or were you kind of, or when you actually started wrestling, did they kind of break everything down to you?
No, the internet age kind of smartened me up on some of the details long before I started learning how to work. But I mean, even as a kid, you tell someone you like wrestling in those days, don't you know it's fake? And then they start breaking down the stuff even back then. It's sort of like when you find out Santa Claus ain't all that maybe he's made out to be. So
No, I remember that I would fight with my dad because I'd be like, "No, he's bleeding," and he'd be like, "No, that's all fake," and then it'd be like, "No, no, he's taking razor blades that he's cutting himself with them," and I would just, and then, but I was a little kid back then. So.
Well, let's not give away all of the magician's tricks
Oh
on
yeah,
this
yeah,
show.
sorry. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly. Have you had to do crazy stuff like that, like self-mutilation and things like that?
I've taken chair shots and kendo stick stuff, and I've definitely done some weird things on like, freak show wrestling and wrestling pro wrestling, because those lean into the comedy and the abstract, shall we say. I haven't done some of the more extreme things like barbed wire or thumbtacks, though. Just, didn't really, situations that I was in didn't really call for it, thankfully.
And how did it become a part of like something that you wanted to do, like as part of your career? Did it come like while you were waiting for voice acting gigs? Did they run parallel?
Sort of, I mean, if I was constantly busy with acting work, maybe I wouldn't have done this as sort of a side hobby career sort of thing. But the way it came about, you're in Chula Vista, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually a little bit south of Chula Vista. You remember the Godfather's Pizza off of I can't remember the exit, but it's a little bit before Imperial Beach.
Mm-hmm. A Coronado or something.
Well, I found out the pay-per-views didn't used to be $5 by subscribing to Peacock. They used to be like $50-$60 or what have you. So I'd look for places that were maybe showing it as part of an event. And I found like a Godfather's Pizza down in that area that was showing some WWE stuff. This would be about 2009-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And you get some drinks in you, you start cracking jokes like you do, and hooting and hollering, and kind of made friends with some folks, saw some people handing out flyers after that, and realized there was an independent show in town, and got invited to go see it, loved it. And then they invited me, knowing that I do comedy and stuff like that, they invited me to come do commentary on the shows. And then, the more you get into it, you get asked to do other things. So eventually I got asked to be somebody's manager. Eventually I got asked to be part of matches, which facilitated me going and getting trained. And it's just, just always something that's sort of been something I could kind of turn to. I like the camaraderie in the locker room when it's there is fantastic. And it's just a chance to play Hulk Hogan, so to speak. What fan wouldn't jump at the chance to do that a little bit here and there?
Yeah, absolutely. To be able to hit him with the,
Right.
but that's performing. Do you think
Now, I've
that if
never played Hulk Hogan. I've booked someone to play Hulk Hogan when I ran a show in San Diego. But no, for me, it's been the people I've impersonated as a wrestler. Actually, there's been a bunch, but like my first match was actually it was a Halloween show, and because of the hair and everything, people used to say I look like Stevie Richards. So on the first match I ever had, I actually wrestled as Big Stevie Cool from BWO ECW. So
did you how deep into like the mythology of wrestling did you go? Like, did you study like all the little like regional sort of things, or did you kind of just focus on like the big one like WWF, WWE?
I didn't like trade tapes back in the day, if you know what I mean. But it was
Right,
definitely I sort of wanted to once I had access to it. Again, the internet age kind
right.
of broadened my horizons beyond just
Yeah.
what was available through cable TV locally.
Yeah, that's a dope. It's like I like while you were talking about it, I was like, man, I might watch WrestleMania 3 after this interview's over. I just haven't
Right?
I haven't seen this the
Contagious.
YouTube is awesome. Even though I haven't I haven't kept up with wrestling in a long time. I still, it's still real to me, damn it. Um, but there's people that do take it super serious, right?
um, yeah, in varying ways. It's passionate is the way that I would label it, as far as just how much they'll go to shows. And I mean, I've known people that go to like every single independent show they can get drive to in Southern California, and if they can't drive there, they'll find someone to drive them to there. You know,
Yeah. Do you think you would rather be recognized as, let's say you get to, Adult Swim has a new series and you're going to get 3 seasons of voice work for that, or you might get picked up for an ultra low budget film to play like a best friend in like an indie feature, or or you get called up to go on tour with WWE for like 18-month tour. Which one of those do you think would be like the most attractive to you?
I think. Well, luckily, I haven't run into that where like I have to choose one or the other. Usually, like things kind of align, the planets align in a way that I kind of have my cake and eat it too in a lot of cases. But
Right.
for longevity's sake, if it was choosing, I would probably go with the film thing, just because um, that's more the road I've gone down. So
Mhm.
just take what I've been doing and elevate that much further. I don't think I would necessarily turn down some involvement with WWE, but to make that to stop everything else just for that,
Mm.
I don't know, man. I'm not 25 anymore, so I think that maybe that wouldn't be the best thinking on my part.
If you Since you're living and you're working as a voice actor continuously, maybe not as much as you are in traditional acting, but when you do step on set for traditional film or theater acting, do you have to do you find yourself maybe not using your body enough and just relying too much on your voice in some of the takes and stuff like that? Does that ever become like a thing where you have to sort of remind yourself that there's more to this type of acting?
No, I don't think it's actually. A lot of the time with voice acting, it's sort of like weight training for acting in a way,
Okay.
where you don't rely just upon your appearance or like small physical nuances. You really have to convey a lot just with sound. So if anything, that helps, I think, the energy that it takes to do like a cartoon or something like that. You can take that. A lot of directors will say it's a lot easier for me to bring you down energy wise than pull you back up.
Mhm.
So it gives me, I think, a better place to start from when I'm on set. And it also, I'm really not an either or kind of guy. I think that having done at least a little bit of so many other things, it all just helps you makes you that much more of a well-rounded performer. So, and then also at a certain point, you just kind of rely on that you trained properly and you know how to hit your mark and just do what the director's telling you, frankly. But I've never run into a scenario where um like I just stood there holding my hand to my ear as if headphones were on while I was doing the TV series, if that makes sense.
You got shot in the scene, John. You can't just stay there and go like this. You have to fall, right? You get
Right,
you're. I mean, I can understand. I mean, it seems like all the things that you're doing, the athletic stuff with the wrestling, the voiceover stuff, that
Well,
all
because
can.
that's the other thing is I also did
Yeah,
stand up, so it's like so much of live performance has been ingrained into me for so many years that you don't. I can't think of a scenario where anybody kind of gets that. You're using hyperbole, obviously, to
right.
to make a joke, but no, I can't say that that scenario has played out in my career.
Okay. I mean, like I said, I'm real curious about like the process, artistic processes of people in different fields and things that I'm interested in, things like that. So thank you for letting me, you know, talk your ear off a little bit about the kind of the
Now,
behind the
I will
scenes
say
world.
this: if someone just did voiceover
Hmm.
exclusively throughout their career and then tried to transition into on camera, there's definitely some things they would have to catch up on.
Right.
But with me, not to put myself over too much, but I was trying to take a little bit of everything from the buffet of life. So, I trained for years, method acting and then specific classes that were not just, theater based, but film and TV based and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I can see that. Um, what was
It's
your?
like
Because
riding a bike.
you gotta work the instrument out, right? That's what people
Yeah,
say.
actors act. That's something that was beaten into me, or not beaten into me, but that's a phrase I took to heart early on, where it's like, why do these little black box plays that maybe five people are showing up to? Because actors act. You got to do something. If you're really pursuing this and you're willing to go through all the BS that comes from pursuing a life in entertainment, it's because you got something inside you that makes you want to do it. Kind of needs that you need to do it. So you find ways to express yourself and stay out there.
Yeah, one of the things that I
Unless there's
saw.
a life-threatening illness, then you stay home
Yeah, you stay the fuck up.
and you yell in a booth.
One of the memes that I saw recently that resonated was something to that effect, which is if you're one of the few people that walks around the universe and you keep thinking, I want to make movies, there's 10 billion people on the planet, right? So you're walking around with that feeling for a reason. You should be making movies, you should be acting, you should be creating things, So steer into that, man. Everybody's got their own lane, everybody's got something that they're going to be good at, and life is short, so go out there and get after it, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I told you I'd fidget with this darn thing.
Yeah,
I don't mean to. I didn't want to make you think I was taking it off and I was about to walk off set or anything like
it's
that.
enough. It's enough.
I'm just looking at how my shirt isn't as straight as I would
We
like
have
it
a
to
we
be.
have a we have a live heel turn right live on
Yeah,
screen.
yeah.
Yeah.
NWO.
That's Jon Allen's music.
I think that there's definitely some people that maybe pursue it for the wrong reasons and aren't willing to take certain steps that they should, and therefore they're kind of beating their head against the wall, and maybe some folks would consider being happier going in a different direction in life. I mean, coming from the stand-up world, I know people where it's like, why are you doing this to the audience? Why do you refuse to write jokes but demand to be on stage as much as possible? So there's that, but I don't know, man. I also get what you're saying, where there's something inside them that they want to express, and maybe they just haven't found the right avenue to do so, or how to do it, maybe to get the results they want a bit better.
But what drives you? I mean, is it finding individual success in each of these fields? Is it just this is what you're good at, this is what you're passionate about, and this is what you're just going to be doing regardless? Or what is the main driving force for you?
Money. uh, Obviously, I'd like to be able to pay my bills on time and stuff, but so I'm glad that I'm
Or you do something you love, right?
right. I mean, I've tried walking away from it. Yeah, I'll be honest. When things were not going the way I would like them to, and I was feeling like maybe I was beating my head against the wall, and I was, kidding myself or something like that, I've walked away and done sales jobs. I did pest control at one
Mhm.
point, just trying to figure out how to uh, be a responsible adult. But the and pursuing entertainment was always in the peripheral vision. Like even at times where maybe I can remember like I was maybe making better money consistently. It was like, but when are we going to get back to what we really want to do? You know. So it's finding the balance between the two. I tell you, the biggest hurdle with pursuing this stuff is like the bulk of the industry is in California and New York, right? Two of the most expensive places to live in this
Absolutely.
country.
Yeah.
So it's being able to afford being there, but also being able to maintain some level of availability. So you can go on the auditions, you can go to the classes, you can take the jobs if you get booked, obviously. So that can be, a tricky thing for. I know it was for me in the early years, and I suspect that's why, there was a lot of people that they'd save up money, they'd come out here, and then they wouldn't take like a side job or something like that, feeling that they needed to keep complete exclusivity. Not exclusivity, availability.
Mhm.
And then they run out of money, and they got to go back to, wherever they moved out from. So that's another hurdle that people have fallen into at times.
That's why a lot of actors or people in the industry take not necessarily jobs but shifts. Restaurant shifts, warehouse
Right.
shifts, things where they're a little bit more flexible. I mean, finding my boss is okay with me changing shifts for my acting is kind of like the dream job for somebody that's going to LA
Yeah.
that keeps
And,
having to
and
go.
in being in this day and age, there's the gig economy, but
Right.
that's also a little exploitative in a
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, hey, man. Maybe my Philly cheesesteak was brought to me by a future Oscar winner. Hey, worst
yeah,
things
no kidding.
worst things have
I've
happened.
postmated.
Hey,
Probably
it
some kid who got a pizza, not realizing maybe this was a person he was watching on TV at some point.
trust me, what you said earlier does resonate because I've worked in I've worked in customer service and coaching. I'm a consultant. I coach companies on their customer service, on their sales scripts. This is something that I'm really really good at, but I'm zero passionate about. But it pays the bills. And there was a time when I was working 70, 80 hours a week, making really good money, but I wasn't doing anything.
Hey, Jesus.
I wasn't doing anything.
Bernie Sanders would have a field day with that sentence.
Yeah,
Nobody
absolutely.
who makes films should work 80 hours a week.
But in my mind, I was like, I've been talking about making movies since high school, since I was a kid. This is all that I've ever wanted to do, and now I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it, but I don't do it. Cut to about 10 years ago, I quit that job, started working 30 hours a week, and even though I have nowhere the level of money or financial stability that I had before, at least I can spend half my week working on things that I'm actually passionate about and that actually feed my soul and don't make me want to,
Right.
do stupid shit. You know what I mean? Or make me want to do hard drugs to get through the week. So at least, so everybody's got to find that level. Enough. You have to stay alive. You have to do something to pay the bills. You got to feed the monkey, as they say, but you also need to feed what it is that you're passionate about, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, Mr. Jon Allen, we've talked voice acting and we've talked a little bit about wrestling. I want to keep talking a little bit about that, but I also do want to talk a little bit about a topic that I've seen you sort of post about that I've always been like we're on the same page about, and that's usually when somebody posts something that's regarding like older classic Adult Swim shows, which I think was sort of the heyday of like animation back in the day and things like that. So the way I want to incorporate this part of the conversation as we wrap up this interview is something that I like to call the bracket bit.
The what?
Racket bit. Racket bit. Racket bit. Racket bit. Whoa, 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 whoa. Racket bit. Racket bit. Racket bit. Racket bit. Whoa, 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 whoa.
I love that you said the what right before I hit that because
I know.
bracket bit.
Totally unplanned, but
Bracket bit is created by myself as a this or that sort of situation. There's a 32 team bracket, and I'm going to give you two teams, and you tell me which moves on to the next round. All right. Don't worry, it'll be simple enough. Now, excuse me, sorry about that. Now, the key thing to remember during bracket bit is that even though I am the one that chooses the bracket, you are my test subject. So your rationale for what you pick is completely up to you. You can say which of these you would rather be a part of, which of these are more iconic, which one of these you would rather blah, blah, blah. However it is that you want to do it, this is exactly it. And for you, Mr. Jon Allen, since you are a person that is part of the voice acting as well as the wrestling world, the bracket I have chosen for you is called Wrestlers versus Adult Swim Characters.
Oh Lord!
All right, so
Are
I'm
we
going to give
talking
you
who would win in a fight, or
it's
just personal preference?
it's whatever you want to call it. So you can
Okay.
say who would win in a fight, which one would I rather play, which one would I rather be a part of. Whatever you want to choose as your reasoning for it, you can choose it, but I'm the one that gives you the two options. Are you ready?
I shall do my best, sir.
And then, since we didn't really talk about some of these shows and stuff in the past during the interview, if any of these you have like a definitive take on, we can sort of stop and sort of chat a little bit about it. You got it?
Yes.
All right, so let's get started. In the first round, we have one of my favorite shows of all time, and I think that the precursor to like the Rick and Morty show on Adult Swim, and that is Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Number one in the hood G, which I think you're also a fan of, and some of these wrestlers might be a little bit old school since they're from my era, and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who, when we all remember seeing the kid was bouncing the basketball, he would let him get up to like 9, and then Ted DiBiase, he's basically like what Trump imagines himself to be, I think, is what Ted DiBiase is.
Yeah. Yeah. DiBiase probably gave him some ideas that unfortunately he took to heart.
All right, so here it is.
I also want a belt. Okay. So Aqua Teen Hunger Force or Ted DiBiase. God bless it. Ted DiBiase is iconic, but I freaking loved Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Meatwad, Master Shake is my spirit animal.
Oh, I mean, Dana Snyder is Shake, just such an amazing asshole in the same vein as like the Eric Cartmans of the world.
Shake Zula, the Mike Zula.
Damn, this is a tough one. I don't want to take up all of the remaining time.
No, man. Like I said, like Aqua Teen is number one for me. Carl.
That's what I'm leaning towards. Probably because that one made me laugh more, and DiBiase was doing his job by being such a huge dick. So I don't know. I'm glad that I've gotten to experience both, but let's go with Aqua Teen.
All right, that's fine. Another classic Adult Swim TV show, probably the best fake death metal band of all time, Death Clock, Metalocalypse. This guy might be president in a couple of years. The Rock.
You are killing me because, again, Metalocalypse, easily one of my favorite animated shows of all time.
Murderface, the Death Clock album is the Death Clock, the Gears, and the underwater song Go Into the Water. I can put those on when I'm on the treadmill, and I can go hard for like 40
minutes. Give Jen an aneurysm. Oh, my God.
I woke up with a clown's hand in my pocket.
That's how my day was. So I think
Dr. Roxo, come on.
Yeah, I absolutely recognize The Rock's talent, his contributions. I've certainly enjoyed his work. But I'll tell you, all this talk of like, well, let's try having another celebrity in the White House. That went so well last time. I'm going to give it to Metalocalypse.
All right, setting up a brutal second round
matchup. Now those two against each other.
All right, we got everybody's favorite sock puppet operator, Mick Foley, or another classic Adult Swim show with tons of memes, and one of the most diverse actors. Let's give this guy he does drama, he does comedy, but the Steve Brule show is also an awesome show. Steve Brule's Rules versus Mick Foley.
I don't think I've ever seen Steve Brule.
You never seen the Steve Brule show?
I'm so unfamiliar with it that I was looking at it. I almost thought it said Steve Brute.
No, you know who it's the guy from Shake and Bake from Talladega Nights. What's the actor?
This one, thankfully, is a lot easier for me and my blood pressure.
John
I'm
C.
going to go
Reilly.
with Mick Foley. I've met that dude. Such a great body of work. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the other one.
Okay. I'm sorry. What the actor's name is? John C. Riley. You know, from he's.
I'll look at a picture lately, and I'll
Oh
probably be like,
yeah.
"Oh,
No, that's all right. If you're not familiar with Steve Rules, that's fine.
looks like I got something to watch now, huh?"
The Ultimate Warrior versus the Eric Andre show.
Okay, Eric Andre is a lot more. It sounds more familiar to me. Can you give me a quick reminder of that one?
Eric Andre just has a new movie on Netflix called like Something Wild Ride. He's kind of like an Andy Kaufman. He does like the fake talk show where he brings on a guest and then things go crazy. It's that meme of him
What, like
shooting.
Jimmy Glick? Is that the same guy or no?
No. He was dating Rosario Dawson for a while. He was the Eric Andre show. He's been on Stern. He's let me see. Hold on, let me pull up a pic for
Oh yeah, visual aids.
you.
Please. Pretend I'm stupid.
There you go. This is Eric Andre.
Oh, okay. He's good. I'm gonna.
He's got like an Andy Kaufman-esque sort of style talk show.
Yeah.
The Eric Andre
I'll
show.
give it to Warrior. Who
Warriors.
I know he has very questionable public speaking engagements of his, but we got two cartoons versus each other in that first bracket. Let's have two wrestlers in this bracket.
All right, the Boondocks versus Jake the Snake Roberts.
This is tough as well. I'm blessed I've had the chance to work with Jake over at Freak Show Wrestling briefly.
Nice.
I absolutely love the Boondocks. I've also gotten to do comedy shows with Gary Anthony Williams, who plays Uncle Ruckus. I don't know if I'm sounding out my thoughts or just putting myself over. I apologize if it's the second one.
Thanks for. I always like it when people bring us into the decision-making process. Like I said, the bracket bid is created for maximum pain, and
It's killing me right now. Mission accomplished. God bless it. I flip a coin. I mean, Boondocks is absolutely phenomenal. I'll give it to Jake because he has such an amazing comeback story in life.
Absolutely. This is another show, one of my favorites, Lucy, Daughter of the Devil. Every year when I go to Comic-Con, I find the creator of this show as part of one of the Fox, usually part of the Fox things, and I always ask him the same question. Why did Adult Swim give you a second season of Lucy? And he's like, dude, you've asked me that 7 Comic-Cons in a row. Let it go. Or The Undertaker.
Okay, so I have seen Lucy, and I do enjoy me some H. John Benjamin. He was great as the devil. Like, why don't you? I don't know what he said in the show, but I do a pretty mean H. John.
I like that the joke that we didn't get to like years later was like, hey, where'd you get that Cosby sweater? He's like, I got it from Cosby. And then like the joke being that Cosby and the devil are together.
Oh yeah, I mean he came down here, and I just figured, well, he's not gonna need it. He's dead. Yeah. Having said that, I'll give it to Undertaker.
He's an icon.
He's been more a part of my life.
All right, Robot Chicken.
The wrestlers are beating the cartoons with me on this one.
Robot Chicken or Rowdy Piper, wrestler slash actor.
Asshole. You knew what you were doing with this one. Because Rod was the fucking man. But Robot Chicken is also, I really had some good laughs from that one. I'm so happy because I'm a gummy bear. Dang it.
My favorite was
I gotta give it to Rod, man.
Rowdy?
Classic.
Right.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper. Moving on. Wrestlers having a good time so far. Home movies. Speaking of H. John Benjamin, underrated old school Adult Swim show versus
Brendan, go down to the street, give him this check, and bring me back a coffee. Okay.
Versus Rick, the Nature Boy.
Yeah, I mean that's
a tough one for home
somebody
movies.
who I've done a loving homage to for a couple of years now. I want to have some cartoons versus wrestlers, though.
I don't know.
I know if I put home movies, Roddy's going to crush that one. So let's make it harder on me. As much as I came to appreciate home movies, we'll go Rick.
Okay. There you go. Ric Flair movie. I didn't think This is another. I mean, honestly, this is a tough one because there's so many iconic wrestlers right here, right?
Yeah,
But
like you should have put some crappy ones in the mix, like Skinner for the wrestlers and like Caillou for the cartoons. You know, give me a damn break here.
all right, Squidbillies or Andre the Giant.
Okay.
Depends on how big of a fan. This might be an easier one for you.
Well, this goes back to my love of Master Shake's voice actor was also Granny on this one.
All right.
You had me against So I do love Andre the Giant. I was actually just watching some YouTube videos about him, and I love documentary stuff about Andre, man. That would have been amazing to meet that fellow, but I didn't. And I tell you, man, Squidbillies is just such a. I'm gonna go Squidbillies.
Now, remind me later on. I can send you a link because one of the movies that I got to watch during the San Diego Latino Film Festival was this one called 18th and Grand, which is about the Olympic Auditorium in LA, where a lot of the classic fights happen between wrestlers, and it's like a little story about that venue, but it's got a large portion in there that's about kind of like the old school wrestling time.
Nice.
All right, moving on. Mike Tyson's Mystery, sort of a newer show, versus George the Animal Steel, the terrorizer of turnbuckles.
George is a classic. I'm amazed by what he was able to accomplish. You didn't really see him doing a lot of backflips and Canadian destroyers, but he was just such a captivating character.
Incredible actor. Incredible. He was
never
dropped characters.
Wrestler, actually. Having said that, Norm freaking McDonald is Pigeon, man.
Oh my God.
I think, and God help me, I think I'll go Mike Tyson Mysteries on this one.
Got it. Not a problem, man. This is your bracket. Children's Hospital. Children's Hospital versus
I'm an
Ricky the
asshole
Dragon.
if I don't pick that one. Right? Because wait, you're talking about there was a show. Okay, I thought you meant like an actual children's hospital.
No, the children's.
Like, would you rather have a pizza or would you like these orphans in a bus to?
That would bring that'd be a whole another level of pain. No, this is the show with I think Rod Guidry, or
I don't remember the show Children's Hospital too much.
All right.
And I don't think that it was very good at arm drags. So I'm gonna go Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
All right, Venture Brothers versus Chula Vista's own Rey Mysterio.
See, as a native San Diegan, this is a tough one for me.
Venture Brothers
is the point. But I'm buddies. Michael Sintra-Nicholas, who plays Dean Venture, is a buddy of mine. Let's go Venture Brothers.
Venture Brothers moves on. Space Ghost, Coast to Coast, who they recently suggested should take over for Ellen DeGeneres, or Bam Bam Bigelow.
I did like me some Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. The feuding between Zorak and Lokar was fun.
It actually was the first place that the Aqua Teens made their first appearance.
If you had to guess which one I was going to pick, which one do you think?
Well, you mentioned that one of the first matches you saw was your dad watching Bam Bam. So if
I did mention that.
So I thought Space Ghost was for sure, but since you mentioned that, I think it could go either way.
Okay, well, I wish I hadn't mentioned that because I definitely thought this would be a swerve for people watching. I'm still gonna pick Bam Bam. I meant it as a swerve, but then I just kind of got, why not? Let's throw a wild card in there.
All right, Black Jesus versus Hulk Hogan.
I don't remember Black Jesus.
It's after he stopped doing Boondocks. Aaron Magruder or McGrath, I always mess up his last name, did a live action show about Black Jesus in LA. Like he lives in Compton and they drink 40s and smoke weed.
You're putting me in a bad spot here because I grew up watching Hogan. But if I pick him over Black Jesus, people are going to talk about me.
Well, if you don't know the show that well, so you're in the clear here. If you're not aware, if you haven't seen it, then and Hulk Hogan is an icon. It's a tough matchup for him. But
I've got some friends of color who are probably watching this right now.
it's your
You
bracket, man.
mother father. I got to be honest and say I don't think I saw Black Jesus.
That's fine.
Sort of a tie into the Boondocks in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it's the creator of the Boondocks.
Black.
Creator of the Boondocks.
But it's like, if I do Black Jesus, Bam Bam's going to crush him because at a certain point I got to admit again that I haven't watched the show. So I guess Hogan.
That's fine. Harvey
Is it?
Birdman. Yeah.
I don't know anymore. Things are changing so rapidly. Twitter is going to cancel me.
Nah, you're good. Harvey Birdman, which I just recently saw, there's going to be a spin-off, which is
I saw the Bird Girl pilot.
With the Bird Girl pilot, yeah. So that's something to look forward to. Hey, did you get that thing I sent you?
Yeah, he's not in it though.
He's not. No, I know. I understand.
There's a girl who's like, I guess, the daughter of Mentok the Mind Taker. That's fun.
Really?
Yeah.
That's definitely on my radar. I gotta check it out. Versus, you said one of the first voices you did well, Randy Macho Man Savage.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking. Gotta pick one. Yeah. All right. I love Harvey Birdman. I've played the game even. Man, I got to pick Macho.
Right, Macho moves on. And then on the last bracket in the first round, we got Bret the Hitman Hart versus, everybody remembers your classic Rick and Morty rants. Rick and Morty.
I hate you so much right now. I don't want it to all be wrestlers in the brackets, and it's leaning that way.
Yeah,
Rick and Morty is a quality piece of work, but there's one that I've been watching for way longer in overall years. Let's go, Bret.
Hart Foundation moves on. All right.
Let's go, Bret.
We got about a 70-30 split of wrestlers to cartoons, but we got some strong cartoons in the mix.
Dork.
All right, let's go bottom to top here. Let's go Randy Macho Man Savage versus Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, this would be an did this match ever take place? Did Macho Man ever fight?
Yeah, I think in some capacity.
They had to have crossed paths.
How Shawn Michaels and Randy wrestled for like an Intercontinental belt on house shows briefly. We're really getting into the God. How much time?
There's no easy buckets from here on.
No. We've as tough as round one was.
Because usually if round one is a struggle, then round two is like just more pain. Sometimes it's easier.
All right. The first show I ever saw live was at the San Diego Sports Arena, now the Sequan Center
or something.
That was 1992. I'm going to use my lifeline on this one.
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ. Damn, this really is hard. Like as far as like which one I like more, who would beat who was more contributed more to the business.
You could be like, who would I rather be a tag team partner with? Who would I rather, have lunch with? Whatever your prerogative is, man. You can.
I dressed as Macho for a Halloween party, and that was a lot of fun. I don't know if that changes anything. Bret's really cool. Pardon my language.
Hart Foundation.
Randy.
Elizabeth.
Let's go, Randy.
All right. It doesn't get easier here. Bam Bam Bigelow. You already said it was one of the first matches you watched versus an icon legend, Hulk Hogan. Take your vitamins, say your prayers.
I'm in the clear as far as controversy picking one of these two.
There you go.
We'll give it to Hogan.
Hogan moves on. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who I believe is now teaching wrestling in like Oceanside or somewhere. And the Venture Brothers, who takes 4 years off between seasons.
Yeah, and now I guess are canceled for the moment.
Yeah.
I can't believe that Venture Brothers could go into round 3, but Rick and Morty is all the way back in round 1.
Wow. It's a tough
Um,
bracket.
Nothing against Ricky, but I'll give it to Venture. I'd like to see some cartoons move up.
Go Team Venture. Squidbillies or Mike Tyson Mysteries?
This is bull spit right here, man. I'm going to give it to Squidbillies.
Rowdy Piper or Ric Flair?
Oh, God. The namesake for Ricotta Flair. Versus one of the coolest mofos I've ever been in the presence of.
Babe. I came here to do brackets and chew bubblegum.
Yeah.
We're all
Bubblegum. Woo! Let's give it to Roddy.
Give it to Rowdy.
This feels blasphemous on my part, but I'm going to give it to Roddy.
All right, Jake the Snake or the Undertaker? I think they fought, right?
Yeah, WrestleMania 8.
Wait, was Undertaker the one who? No, it was like Yokozuna or Earthquake that smashed the snake.
Earthquake. Yeah, he turned Damien into Quake Burgers.
Yeah.
Jake, I love you, my man. I'm going to give it to Taker.
All right, and then Mick Foley or the Ultimate Warrior? That's another fight I'd like to see.
I don't know how good of a match they would have. I mean, Warrior was kind of limited in what he would do. And Foley,
Warrior was just about his entrance, man. It was just.
Yeah, Foley kind of needs someone to, play to his strengths a bit more, and I think Warrior would. But we're not talking about that. We're just kind of hypothetically who should move up in this little bracket dealio. I'll give it to Foley because he said way less offensive stuff whenever he's been asked to do public speaking.
All right, sounds good. Hey, good a reason
You
as
never
any.
heard Mick Foley say queering doesn't make the world work or whatever the crap Jim Helmwood was saying at colleges.
Moving on
Makes
here,
me
man.
feel bad in hindsight that I let him beat Eric Andre, I guess.
The bracket is a tough thing, man. It happens. Sometimes weird choices get made. But we are moving on. And we have one more battle of cartoons here between Metalocalypse and Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
This one breaks my heart. It really does, man.
This could be a final for me. I don't know how I got these two in the second round.
Like now I do want to take this off and walk off the show,
Master Shake's character to me is like my spirit animal just because there's colleges where they have classes, what is it? Meet what is the inner child, Master Shake is the super id, and Frylock is I don't know what it is, but they actually study psychologically what these characters are. To me, they were just fun. But Master Shake is definitely one of my favorite characters of all time in any bracket. Metalocalypse, though, is a kick-ass show about the world's biggest metal band. And in making
it back to that bit where like Frylock is trying to make Master Shake get out of his room. It's like here's $10. Go see a movie. Motion pictures $14. Here, get going out of here. What about popcorn? Wonder what's coming. See, it was such like a formative part of my early adult years, man. And they didn't even get the chance to finish Metalocalypse, which also complicates things.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, they know. Yeah, that was
get to finish Metalocalypse. They did the one movie.
They did that.
Tied up one of the story arcs a little bit. But
they did like a rock opera, which I wasn't a fan of. Let me give you my favorite Shake line, though. It was when they were when him and Carl were both marrying the Russian bride.
We're going down that aisle.
and then Frylock says, "Shake, you're depraved." And then Master Shake says, "Thank you. I think she sees that quality in me." And I think that's always been like my favorite Master Shake line. It's like, yeah, exactly.
You don't know. Just go make my dinner. Meatwad, it's spaghetti time.
Put these on and shake it, honey.
God dang
Either
it.
way, the choice is yours. Metalocalypse or Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
I'll go Metalocalypse. And that feels like sacrilege after everything we
Ugh.
just said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should I do Aqua Teen?
Don't. I'm Aqua Teen over everything. My answer is going to be always. I create the bracket, John. This is your bracket to fill out.
Ooh.
If Metalocalypse is stronger for you in your mind because of the music, I mean, like I said, in creating a show about
I
the
think
world's
that's
greatest
part of
metal
it.
band,
I did buy the Death Clock album.
the Death albums are incredible.
It's been a big part of like my car rides through LA, and I think
Okay.
that's what's kind of giving me Metalocalypse fever here.
It's up to you, man. You going to Metalocalypse? You sticking to your guns?
I'll do it only because Squidbillies is still alive on this.
All right, Metalocalypse moves on. We're in our
But
final
I feel
8.
bad inside,
Yeah,
my
I
man.
feel dirty. I feel dirty too. I mean, like I said, man, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force is I don't know why. I don't know. It's the show I can most easily rewatch. It's on HBO Max. I have it on like whenever I'll watch a couple of episodes of Aqua Teen. That's fine.
Sometimes I make bad decisions. This might have been one of them.
It's all right. We live and we learn. We move on. Metalocalypse versus Mr. Mick Foley.
God, I'm actually tempted to put Metalocalypse. It speaks to the power of music, man, that I would even consider putting Metalocalypse over Mick Foley.
Yeah, they made
Love
a
Is
show about the greatest rock band of all time. And in making so, they made an incredible rock band, which is all one guy.
Foley never got back to my tweet about me opening for his stand-up. Now, I know that Brendan Small, you know, he hasn't had me open for him at stand-up either, but I never asked him.
Brendan seems a little bit more approachable.
Metalocalypse.
All right. Metalocalypse moves into the final 4 representing for the card.
I'll stick with it.
All right. We got the
end the show sometime.
We got the Undertaker versus Rowdy Piper.
Yeah, don't worry. The feed hasn't cut out. I'm just really stuck on this one.
That's all right.
I really liked Roddy's book. Undertaker doesn't have one. Rowdy Piper.
Rowdy Piper moves on. Squidbillies versus Venture Brothers in an all-cartoon third-round matchup. You said you were happy about Squidbillies being.
Yeah, I'd like Dana to survive on this list a little bit longer. I love Venture Brothers. I still constantly watch YouTube clips of it. But man, there's some jokes that have really flippin' landed with me on Squidbillies. And Mick Foley was in Squidbillies. He did a cameo as Thundercleese. So as an apology to knocking him out earlier, I'll go Squidbillies.
You can't go wrong with anyone's at this point, man. I mean, these are all look.
Either way, you're having a good night in front of the TV.
All right, and then we're down to Metalocalypse versus Rowdy Piper or Squidbillies versus either Hulk Hogan or Randy Macho Man Savage. So that's your next tough decision here. Who's going up against them in the next round?
All right. This is gonna piss some people off, but I'm going somewhere with this. Hulk Hogan.
All right. Hulk Hogan.
WrestleMania 5. All over again.
All over. Yeah, that's true. And we get here to the final 4. We have been live with Mr. Jon Allen. Let me make sure we shout out your socials again, and people want to keep up.
Oh, nobody's gonna want those after this.
Everybody's gonna that way. If you have a problem with him moving anybody on against somebody else, follow him. Hit him up.
So mad at me right
King
now.
Jon Allen on Twitter, the Jon Allen on Instagram, and Facebook.com/voiceover Jon Allen. And make sure that you go follow 2 a.m. Burrito across all platforms or the 2 a.m. Burrito podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcast. All right. And like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on. I've always thought you were an interesting guy. It's great that you came and talked to about your process, about voice acting, about everything. But we still got some business to attend to. and the business is me giving you the business, and the business is this bracket bit.
I thought
So
you said you liked me. I can't
I
believe
did.
you put me in this
I do
position.
like all my guests, but like I said, the bracket bit is created to inflict maximum pain.
What a bad night to be sober.
Bad day to stop sniffing glue.
I
A worthy Final Four in the world of cartoons. You're a voiceover actor who happens to wrestle, so I said, why not put cartoons versus wrestlers? That'll be the bracket bit. And this is what I came up with, John. The choice is yours. First round, first fight of the second of the Final Four is Metalocalypse, Rowdy Piper. I mean, his appearance in It's Always Sunny alone.
Oh God, I almost forgot about that.
His acting work. Like not just as his wrestling work, but his acting work.
Yeah, They Live.
Yeah.
Which I only just saw about 2-3 years ago, finally.
It's a wrestler actor versus a cartoon that's also a heavy metal band.
Yeah. Both are pretty metal when you think about it.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Right.
That's my favorite Metalocalypse scene. Just FYI, when they have the HR inspector like showing them, and there's like, he's like, they're like, oh, they keep saying something's metal. He's like, so it's metal? You're telling me it's metal to have decaying corpses laying around the entire place?
Yeah, not to be contradictory, but yeah, that's very metal.
Yeah. Okay.
guess,
boy, I wish we'd gone with the other bracket first, but
guess I didn't know some of those things were metal.
guess we had to do this eventually.
Yeah.
All right. When I met Roddy, he said, I bet you got a nice family. That was such a sweet thing to do. Metalocalypse is a cartoon and is therefore incapable of wishing that as well to me personally. So I'll give it to Roddy.
All right. That's fine, man. That's good. And then on the next one here, you got Hulk Hogan versus the Squidbillies.
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 Swerve.
There's always Bubba the Love Sponge's wife, so you can.
To think that I put Granny Kyler over Hulk Hogan. See, I was going somewhere with that. I didn't want to job out Macho Man, but we had to get to the big show.
We got to get to it, Joe. And here it is, the final of all finals: wrestlers versus cartoons, and we got one of each. Squidbillies, which is some high concept shit when you think about it, or Rowdy Piper.
Look at the amount of quality on this list, and yet Squidbillies made it to the final.
I don't know that Squidbillies, if it was only cartoons, I don't know if Squidbillies would make it past the second round. But it was a tough one with Metalocalypse and Aqua Teen having to go up against each other early on.
Yeah.
I might have seeded them incorrectly, but it happens.
You know, it would be funny to put Squidbillies over, but I guess Unknown Hinson did some really racist stuff on Twitter a while back. So I'm going to be a little bit more progressive here in 2021.
Woke Jon Allen.
And give it to the guy who wears a kilt. Roddy Piper, final answer.
Roddy Piper comes out victorious. Do you feel clean? I mean, it was a weird bracket, but I think you got to feel clean about him being the winner, right?
Yeah. I mean, Rod would beat Early Kyler in a fight, is taking shotguns out of the equation. And why not? I hope that wasn't too predictable because,
No, man.
I've been a Piper fan for years, but I
mean, he beat out Rick and Morty, Randy Macho Man Savage, the Venture Brothers, Rey Mysterio, Andre the Giant, Jake the Snake Roberts. Like, you can be. There's definitely a trail of bodies behind, but Rowdy Piper, I believe, is a legitimate winner of this bracket, and I appreciate that you went through it for scientific purposes, Mr. John.
For science, yes.
For science, all right. My last ask of the interview, and then I'm gonna let you go. I do ask all my guests to do a promo, so if you would possibly to appease me, I've always been a fan of your Rick and Morty voice. Do you, if it's not putting you on the spot, do you mind doing a promo for the show?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna put you on
as the characters. I don't have like any puppets or anything, but
no, just your voices. Like, I'm gonna put you up on the full screen right now, and you can just. It's basically like, hey, this is Rick and Morty, and you're listening or watching Fireside Chats with Big Chief Burrito. Is that cool?
All right. Wait, one more time. How you want it formatted? You want the name?
then that, or even if you just do the voice, however you want it, that's fine. But just the basic is just saying you're watching Fireside Chats with Big
All
Chief
right.
Burrito, and then you can whatever after that is whatever you want. All right. Let me
All
put you up.
right.
All right, brother. Let me put you on. Boom.
Hey, I'm Jon Allen. Here's Rick and Morty talking about 2 a.m. burrito. Hey, Rick, you seen that show that's on social media? There's a lot of shows on social media, Morty. You're gonna have to narrow it down. There's a 2 a.m. burrito. Oh yeah, I do like a burrito at 2 a.m. Morty. It's a show. You should watch it.
Oh man, I appreciate it, brother. I hope you had a good time. It was great to be able to get to know you a little bit and talk to you, man. So I want to say thank you again for doing that.
And you, Lou. Good to get to know you a bit better, and thank you for the platform. I'd also like to thank the doggies for being so comfortable during the entire show.
Yeah, they yeah. Whether I do the interviews at 12 noon or at 9 p.m., they're back there sleeping, chilling. All right,
That's cool.
so thank you
Very,
everybody.
very
Thank you everybody. Thank you for John being part of the bracket bid. This has been Big Cheap Burrito. Thanks for watching. We're out. Peace.
Hasta la pasta.